it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're focusing in a little bit more in depth on a viewer question about a child who is narcissistic, and with she's feeling that the parents are loving, genuine, supportive, but yet this child is narcissistic. So probably there is some degree of parental alienation going on and rebellion going on where they're pushing away then the parents who are nothing but supportive and want the best for her. So it's very important if you're experiencing this sort of narcissistic child, to realize that there is stages where it does need to be all about them. So oftentimes, be careful about judging and labeling kids. If they are narcissistic, if they seem like they're pulling away from you, maybe it's not necessarily due to you labeling them narcissistic, but perhaps they're just trying to individuate themselves and to create their own experience of life. It is very interesting when it comes to identity creation, when as children mature, especially through their teenage years and early 20s. They are in a very much a momentum to gather their own experience of life. So as separated from their parents, becoming their own people, living by their own values, living on their own time frame, living and doing their own experiences, and not really as relating to the parents as much as perhaps when they were with children. So you do need to give them some space and being able to let them go and experience this, and realize that you don't want to overindulge or give them too much at this stage in life, because it creates a sense of frustration and disappointment in the child when they're in essence receiving gifts that they do not want. They are receiving input that they do not want. They are receiving direction that they do not want. They want to discover on their own. And so if this is the feeling, or quote unquote the kickback you are getting, and you're feeling isolated, you're feeling like they are not communicating with you, chances are oftentimes this is a normal and healthy thing. The child does need to kind of develop their own world, and you don't necessarily need to be a friend to this child. It is important to be able to keep that relatedness open, and so you can relate to each other. But realize oftentimes then it's important to experience a sense of change and perhaps approach this child a little bit differently using different questions. So if you've habituated yourself to this child where you tend to come at them from the same angle, the same perspective, the same positioning, you use grammatical language with them that is the same all the time. It's just you're going to be met with deaf ears. You're going to be met with a closed mind. So you need to validate their experience a little bit more to show that you relate to them. And yes, it seems like parenting is a never-ending job in and of itself. And relationships can also be a lot of work as well. So perhaps you're at a crossroads where you need to do a little bit of introspection and see how you can open up and accommodate the needs of this child. So validating where, again, here we come with our mirroring, validating to that child that they are where they're at, and mirroring them and saying, how you're appreciative of them and all that they have given you. You're such a joy. It's a joy for us to have children. We so enjoy having you around, and we want you to experience this in this year with your friends and with your schoolwork, and we want to make sure that you're scheduled appropriately. So coming from a value standpoint, something like that would be very beneficial for you to keep that relatedness open, and speak, and make sure that you speak your fears, and make sure that you are also able to speak your concerns, because oftentimes parents, they want to just continue to force or over inundate their children with their parental direction, and they're not able to validate that child. So realize it's important to validate them. And also kind of, if there's any sort of hurts or past wounds, that you speak those and apologize, or, you verbalize to them, let's let bygones be bygones. Let's let that go. Let's release that in the past. Use some emotional language with the kids, get deep with them. It's okay to do that. It's okay to profess your transgressions to them, because they will respect you for doing that. And it's about creating that sort of respect back with them in the relationship. And so, realize if they're out of tune with you, oftentimes it's because, there's been some over parenting or things of that nature. So realize that there's boundaries to be established. Let them be who they are and express that. We're so glad that we see you going and becoming more independent. You're expressing your own values now, and we really support that, encourage that in you. And we're here when you need us. And so any of that identification with their independence is awesome. But realize too that if they are being narcissistic, if they are being all about them, then they're going to need to pave their own way. If it is about them, then they're going to make their own contributions. They're going to be responsible. They're going to be held accountable. So make sure you hold them responsible and accountable for certain things that they do around the house, their own schoolwork. Make sure that they are structured to maintain their own grades, their own income, things of this nature. So make sure that they're accountable to themselves. So if you feel like they're growing up, then reinforce this and make sure that they're able to really exist along this autonomy in their quote-unquote self-centeredness. So, and make sure that, of course, that they then are able to bring their friends around family gatherings and make an open arms. And furthermore, giving them that sort of support without feeling like you're losing yourself or you're just there to be a source of supply. Because as parents, you do have to be somewhat altruistic. That is part of being a parent. So if you feel that, you're kind of getting used, or it's all of, that one way, that is some of, especially if you're, actually, you did not mention if your child is a teenager, but it's my guess that they're probably in their teenage years where they're becoming more individuated. So I would say don't be alarmed, but do put comments with specifics if you have any questions about that. But make sure you validate them, keep them accountable for themselves, and I think you'll be able to instill the values so that they can be self-governing, be self-dependent, which is truly, in essence, what you want. You don't want them to be depending on you. You want them to be individuated and empowered as individuals. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.